Lily. All right, you guys, we're going to go over questions 216 to 225. So just to put things into perspective, this week is week 16, Monday. And so in this week, we're going to go over 216 to 225 on Monday, 226 to 235 on Tuesday. Wednesday, you have 235 to 240. Thursday, you have 240 to 250. Friday, 250 to 260. So we end up with questions 260 this Friday. And then next week, you guys will have one more week to review all of this stuff. So we can go over like 260 to 305 by next week. So we'll definitely hit the 300 mark by Friday. And then week 18, Monday, is a regular day. So I'm going to put REG for regular day. And it's also a day for review to make sure you guys have all your stuff ready to go. And then on week 18, Tuesday to Thursday, those 3 days are going to be reserved for your finals. And if you're like, where is my finals? Where is it going to be? Or what time it's going to be? Let me just show you this very quickly. So if you go to your teams and you just simply go to your class, which is CR Lab, they really should put Edgenuity or something on there just to be consistent. If you click on the first thing that pops up, or the second thing right here, it tells you your final. So your final for this class, you guys are third period. So we will see you guys on Wednesday, December 15th at 7:45. You have until 9:30 to finish your test. You have an hour and 45 minutes for 50 questions. It's just one day. You don't have 2 days, you guys. And after that Wednesday, we're done. You can't go, oh, I was late on Wednesday, so can I come here on Thursday and, to take the final? No, because Miss Jensen won't be here. I will not be here because I have to give my final for my 5th and 6th period class. So it only can be that Wednesday, third period, 7:45 till 9:30. Does that make sense, you guys? There is no makeup time for that final. You have to be here during that allotted time, and that's it. Anything else you want to add for that, Mrs. Jensen? I think I'm pretty, Okay, because I feel like we're not going to give them any leeway on this, right? Unless you're willing to give up your time to allow them to take it extra time. All right, so let's get started with 215, which is a solution to this quadratic equation. All right, so looking at this right here, we have to go ahead and FOIL this. You're going to have to FOIL this part right here. So 4y minus 3 times 4y minus 3. That is the first thing that you want to do. And then I'm going to put FOIL, which stands for first, outer, inner, and last. Okay, this thing is popping up, which I can't get rid of. So first is going to be 4y times 4y. That's 16y squared. Outer, which is the outside, 4y times -3 is a -12y. Inner, which is on the inside, is a -12y. And last is a -3 times -3, which is a +9. Now, you guys know you can combine -24 and -24 is a -24y. I'm sorry, -12 and -12 is a -24y. And so what I have here, this is going to be your answer. 16y squared minus 24y plus 9. But then don't forget, it says equal 72. I'm going to move that 72 over to the left side, which makes it a -72. And then if I go ahead and combine them together, this is going to give me a -63. All right, so then my A is 16, my B is -24, my C is -72. I'm going to take those numbers and I'm going to plug it into the quadratic equation, which, remember, as you guys know, x is equal to -b plus or minus square root of 4ac all the way over 2a. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. B squared minus 4AC. That's an important part. Yeah, forgot about that. Sorry, that was my bad. All right, so let's go ahead and plug those numbers in, you guys. Let's give it a try, see where that leads us. So I have x is equal to negative b. Negative b is a negative 24, which is a positive 24, plus or minus square root. B squared is a negative 24 squared minus 4 times a times c all the way over to a. So I'm going to have to go ahead and simplify that to get to an easier answer. So what you're going to do is going to grab your calculator. With your calculator, what is 24 times 24? And then also with your calculator, what is 4 times 16 times negative 72? So you want to replace the numbers inside the square root with a smaller number. So go ahead and do that first. So let's take a look at this. X is equal to 24 plus or minus square root of 24 squared is 576. Double negative, you see the negative and the negative makes it a positive. 4608, all the way over 32. So if I look at my answer right there, you're like, that's not anywhere close to any of the answers that's given to me. And you're right, because we still need to simplify it. So our next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and add all the numbers inside the square root. So go ahead and add them. All right, so then you're gonna have a 24 plus or minus square root of 5184 over 32. Now, if I look at that, I'm like, okay, that still doesn't look anywhere near the questions that I have for the answers. So what that means is I'm gonna have to go ahead and get rid of a few things. I have to simplify a few things. Okay, first things first, let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers inside the square root, okay? Another way of breaking that number down is if I have square root of 64 times square root of 81. That will equal 5184. And the reason why I do that is, what do you notice about 64 and 81? They're perfect squares, because a square root of 84 or 64 is 8, and the square root of 81 is a 9. So then here I'm going to have if I have a 24 right here, I could do a 8 times 3, which is a 24, plus or minus 8 times 9 over, on the bottom, you will have 8 times 4, which is 32. And do you guys see that they all share the number 8 right there? Does everybody see that? Which, if you guys take a look at this right here, then what that means that ends up happening is I'm going to go ahead and cancel out the 8, 8, and 8. So then I'm left with x is equal to 3 plus or minus 9 over 4. And I also just noticed that the question here actually made a mistake, because this one here should not be a 6 square root 2. It should be an 81. And I checked my answers and steps and I didn't make a mistake. So then that's okay. If you look at this right here, which one here is going to go ahead and say plus or minus 3 and a 4 on the bottom? And the only one that works is A as an apple, you guys. It's a 3 plus divided by 4, 3 minus divided by 4. And that is your answer for 215. That was a really, really long one. Sorry. You know, we don't do this to make your life miserable. I promise that. Promise you that. We do it because that's just what they have. So sorry. It's kind of a long question. All right, let's go ahead and go on to 216. Go ahead and highlight it, you guys. All right, so Priya is playing a game where she's earning badges. After the 9th level, she scored this, which is 2 standard deviations above the mean score of that. What is the standard deviation score for the 10th level? Okay, so I'm gonna draw a little bell curve right here. So on your paper, we're gonna draw a bell curve like that. And then I'm gonna label my mean. So I'm gonna put mean, which is gonna be 3110. And then I'm gonna put 2 standard deviation, which is gonna be 1 standard deviation plus 2 standard deviation. And if you read the question here, it says at the 2 standard deviation, she scored this many points. So at 2 standard deviation, the points is at 3540. So make sure you guys label that. So then what we're gonna do is it says, what is a standard deviation? So that's what we're gonna try to find. And standard deviation is like equal to the top score minus a low score divided by 2. So her top score is 3540. Her low score is 3310. So subtract that and then divide it by 2. Well, I think if you subtract it, you're gonna get like 430. What's half of 430? Or what is 430 divided by 2? 215, which is your answer. And make sure you have that answer highlighted. All right. 217, you guys, go ahead and read the question. This is on a histogram. All right, so the histogram shows weights in pounds of luggages at a flight. So here it says a number of bags. So you have 2, 4, 6 different bags, and the bottom is a weight of the bags, and it starts at 12 pounds and it goes all the way up to 64 pounds. I don't know about you guys, but when I travel light, and I also bring my own luggage where I can take onto the airplane myself, because I am not gonna wait at the check-in claim for my luggage, which may or may not show up and it might disappear to Chicago or something. So yeah. The medium weight of a check bag, so the medium weight is 27.5 pounds. How does the mean of the data most likely compare to the mean? So the median, as we said, is 27.5. If you look at the mean, are most of the bags heavier or are they lighter? Like looking at the bar graph, are most of the data on the right side, which is heavier, or the left side, which is less heavy? So then 27.5 is gonna be right here. Okay, so that little red part right there. If you look at the question right here, most of your luggage is not on the left side of this red line. And this red line is the median luggage. Most of your luggage is kind of like on the right side of that red line, which means most people's bags are going to be heavier than 27.5. So which one here says heavier than the median? And that is your answer. So heavier than the median is what you're looking at. Okay, let's move on to the next one. 218. Go ahead and take a moment and highlight the important information, you guys. All right, so what is a vertex? Vertex, I'm gonna highlight that word right there. So your vertex is referring to a parabola, like that shape right there. And the vertex is gonna be that little pointy thing right there, okay? And that's gonna be an X and a Y. Now, your equation is X is equal to negative B over 2A. So let's find this out. Your A in this case is 1, your B is 12. So let's put those numbers in. Negative B over 2A. What is your X equal to? It should be a -6, right? So immediately you're like, okay, can be C, cannot be D, because X is -6. But then I need to figure out what Y is. Your Y is gonna be F of -6. So looking at this equation right here that I'm putting a box in, every time you see an X, you're gonna replace it with -6. And then you're gonna grab your calculator. So then -6 times -6 is a 36. What's 36 minus 12 times -6 is a -54. So what is 36 minus 54? I know it's not 0. So there's only really one question for you to pick. All right, 219, you guys. The image below shows a geometric representation of this function. What is this function written in vertex form? So you have x squared minus 2x minus 6. So this is what we're gonna do. If we're gonna write this in vertex form, we first need to go ahead and isolate these two. So I have x squared minus 2x plus blank. Okay, we're gonna complete the square. You do have the -6 right there, so don't forget that. And so if you're gonna add something, you gotta subtract something right there as well, okay? Just to balance it. Do you see the plus sign right here and the minus sign right there? You gotta balance it. If you add a number, you better subtract the number on the same side. So what is your middle number right here? Your middle number is always with the x. Well, if you look at it, it's a -2. So what you're gonna do with that -2 is you're gonna take it, divide it, and square it. So if I divide it, it's a -1. And if I square it, it's a +1. So you're gonna take that, put that one here, and put that one here. So you don't even need to go any further. What's -6 minus 1? It's either gonna be A or B because it's not -5, so it's not C or D. So then your very last step is it's always gonna be the middle number. What's your middle number here? -1 minus 7. And so which one matches this? It's not B, so it has to be probably A as an apple. All right, you guys, so we are at a halfway point. So if you would like, go ahead and take a break. You have 10 minutes to go to the restroom. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. You know what? We can finish that one next one. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and take a break right now. This is your reflection for today. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and finish up the next part of this. So if you guys go ahead and flip your paper over to the back, we will complete the rest of the questions. So starting at 220, which sample fairly represents the population? What? Oh, okay. So representing the population, like if you're going to get data from the population, it's not a good way to get data about Huck High School students and their preference of food if you go to like Spanish Springs High School, right? Like that wouldn't make any sense. If your job is to go ahead and get information about Huck student, you should go to Huck High School, not Spanish Springs. That's what it's asking you, okay? So first option is using a yearbook to determine the most popular names for girls in the United States. Well, that's not okay. If you use somebody's yearbook, it's just for that one school. You know what I mean? So that's not a very good way of getting data. Next one, asking people exiting a vitamin store how often they exercise to determine the amount time the average American exercises. Well, that's not a really good place because I'm assuming if you're going to a vitamin store, you're probably already healthy. So it's the same thing as if I were to ask, do you exercise while I'm standing over there in Sonics? I mean, you know, so probably not the greatest place to go ahead and ask for people. Calling every registered member of the National Republican Party, so this is very specific now, to determine how they voted in the city's mayor race. Well, what about the independent and the Democrat Party. So that's not a very good way of doing that. So it's not A, B, or C. So sending a mandatory confidential email to every 10 employees of a company to determine their overall job satisfaction. That one will work because you're not sending it only to the boys of the company or only to the girls of the company. You're sending it to every 10 employees. So it could be girl, boy, or whomever. You know what I mean? So that's a much better way because you're not being overly specific where your results will be modified or be negatively influenced by all the boys' votes or all the girls' votes. Taking a poll in the main hallway between classes to determine the number of students who will be interested in a school trip to New York City. So you're going to be in the hallways. And if you're going to be in the hallways, that means you're going to be encountering a bunch of different people, not just all the jocks coming from a football game or all the teachers that's coming from the teacher's lounge, so this is good. So D and E are the two answers that you should use. Okay, so let's take a look at this one here. The answer for this one is B as in boy, but I want to make sure you understand why it's B as in boy. So looking at this right here, your multiplier is a -3/4, okay? So you take your first number, -3/4 times 64 should give you a -48. And because there's a negative right here, I know that it's going to be a positive, then a negative, then a positive, and a negative, because that's going to change it back and forth. And if you go on to the next one, which is a -64, -3/4 times a -48, double negative, it does make it a positive. If you look at 36, it's a positive number. 3 times 48 divided by 4, it does give you 36. And that's why B as in boy is going to be the correct answer, you guys. All right, 222. Go ahead and highlight the correct answers there. All right, let's go and take a look at this. Okay, so which function can be used to model the graph in a geometric sequence? Okay, so if you look at the correct answer here is A as an apple, but if you look at the multiplier, it's a 5/6, okay? So 5/6 multiplied by a number have to give you the next number, and that's essentially what it's looking for. Okay, so looking at the number here, I'm gonna have you guys highlight it, the y values right here. just the y values. Do you see how the first y value, you guys have a 1296 and then 1080 and then 900 and then 750 and then 625, okay? So what you're gonna do is this is your multiplier. So 1296 times 5/6. Yeah, that's gonna give you a 1080. 1080 times 5/6. That's gonna give you a 900. And if you just multiply it by 5/6, it's gonna give you all those additional numbers. So the only one that works is A as an apple. If you don't believe me, you could multiply it by the other ones, which is 6/5. And I'm like, it's not gonna be the same, you guys, unfortunately. It's not gonna give you the same answer. And if you're like, but Callahan, if you take a look over here, doesn't this also have 5/6? But do you see how this 5/6, the difference is that that F number is on top? So it's like an exponent. That's not going to work, unfortunately, okay? The only way it works is if you're multiplying, not putting it to an exponent, okay? So it's definitely not C as in cat, so B as in boy, or A as in apple, sorry, that's the right answer. All right, 223. Go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, first thing we want to do, we're going to reorganize this from smallest to biggest. Go ahead and do that. Your smallest number is 0. Your biggest number here is 8. So write all the other numbers in between there. All right, so then from here, you should have 0, 0. And I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 twos. And then I have 1, 3. And then I have a 4. And then I have a 6. And then end with an 8. Okay. So the keyword here is interquartile range, IQR. So in the right, IQR, which is interquartile range, is equal to upper quartile minus lower quartile. Yep, what? You guys don't have this question? Well, that sucks. How about this one? You have this one? You have this one? Okay, we're not going to do the other one then. The other one was a good question, but that's okay. We're not going to do it then. All right. The box compares Maria's and Annie's driving score. Oh my goodness. Okay. So far, if I look at this, or Marta's, not Annie, not Mary's, Marta and Annie's. So who's the better driver, you guys? What is that? I'm sorry? Oh, diving score. I thought it says driving score. So sorry, diving, you're right. This red area right here, this little red mark, that is the mean. Okay, that's the average. Mean is average. Okay, and this is your diving, and I think it's probably in meters because most people have, yeah. So then looking at this right here, this blue part right here, that's gonna be the highest that they dove, okay? And the green part right here, that is the lowest. So if I just look at the mean right here, who is obviously a better diver? Like if you look at the red part, who's a little bit further up? I would say Annie. So your answer is C. Annie is a more successful because she has a greater measure of center. And the key word here is measure of center because on average, that's what it means, okay? Measure of center just means on average. Annie did better. Okay, and where is your average? It's that little red dot, and that red dot means Annie did better. Okay, or actually, you know what? That was basically it, you guys. So we're done. You guys have an entire extra few minutes to spare.